OmahaSteaks.com is a place you can go to help you save some time. It's a busy time of year. You're running a million different directions. The last thing you want to worry about is a healthy, delicious meal.
It's true. I mean, things start getting busy. Things start popping. We've talked about this before. After you get past Labor Day, you've got school events, you've got activities going on, you've got all these other things that it's like you shift gears, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to make it as easy as possible to get the food together so you can have really a good meal, but you don't want to spend all your time shopping. That's why you go visit their website. So you can take a look at, say, the deluxe grill out assortment.
And use the promo code PATandJT. That's going to save you 50% off the deluxe grill out assortment. Plus, you'll get 12 free burgers with that as well when you pick your 30 entrees.
So those would be the really good entrees. I mean, my favorites would be like the all beef meatballs. Of course, the filet, bacon wrap filet, no less.
Ugh, of course.
What would you go with? Are you still hanging in the dessert aisle?
The dessert, hot dogs and dessert are my jam. So they have the best hot dogs.
And they have great sides to go along with that. Over 30 entrees, like Pat said. And you can share it with your family. Like I tell you, just make it as simple as possible and save over 50% off with those 12 free burgers.
Go to omahasteaks.com right now and don't forget the promo code PATandJT to save over 50% on the deluxe grill out assortment.
Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh my, now I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
Deja vu. So we've been getting texts from people, from runners, calling us out for calling them out. You know what it is? It's just we're uncovering, we report, you decide. And we're just uncovering the lies of runners and marathon people. We get you, we see you, we're exposing you.
We're not 100% wrong, and from where it started, because we were talking about running 5Ks, 10Ks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
10Ks aren't 10 miles.
Right.
5Ks aren't 5 miles. But then we went astray when we got after the marathoners. Because 13.1 is miles, it's not kilometers. And the 26 full marathon is miles, it's not kilometers.
The question is, why switch back and forth? It's like if you're a K person.
Just because it's wordplay.
But I would, right. It messes with you. Like I'd rather run, if it's a 5K, anyway, we can get into this later.
We'll do this later. Yeah. Because right now we have, we're bringing, it's kind of like a blast from the past. This is really great. Denise Zak was on our radio show for years. And you're going to, if you've been with us for a long time, I'm sure that name's going to go bing and you're going, oh my God. Yes. And so we looked her up. She took the call. She agreed to be on on this episode today, and we're going to see how it goes. And if we behave ourselves, fingers crossed, we're going to have her back more regularly. And Denise, thank you for saying you'd come on our show.
I am so happy to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me, and it was just so great to hear your voice.
I'm going to tell you right now, for some people, and Pat said the same thing, it's like a happy trigger hearing your voice because you sound exactly the same, and it just instantly makes me smile because we always had such a wonderful time talking to you.
We did, and I remember when I got to come to Omaha and meet you too.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that too.
Yes.
Holy cow.
In person, which is just like, I mean, this was like 15 years ago.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. It is pretty crazy. I don't want to even think I'm old enough to know people for 15 years.
Right?
And so we've picked up some new followers now that we've kind of pivoted over to podcast. We have a lot of people that have hung with us for a long time. And so I know they already are like, oh my gosh. But the thing is that you have evolved since we've last talked to you.
Yeah.
And instead of just starting from the last time we talked to you, do you want to kind of just run through, like, I guess really it's your about page on your website, who you are and how you got here kind of thing, because I just find the whole trip fascinating.
Okay, so let's see if I can kind of summarize. So, let me start with, I guess, a really great discovery, thanks to the media, is after being interviewed, a zillion times in different medias, everybody's question was the same over and over and over. When did you realize you had this gift? Or when was that aha moment? There never was, ever. Right. So I couldn't describe it, and I was faltering. And then one day it occurred to me, it was never realizing I have it. It was, and I don't hope this doesn't sound condescending in any way, it was realizing that nobody else had it. Does that make sense? So it's like, if you wake up breathing and you breathe all your life, you just think everybody breathes, right? It's just something I've done since I was born. So, people would say to me, how do you know that? And I would say, well, it's common sense. And they would say, no, it's not.
Like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. And, I would have conversations. Sometimes it was difficult because I would have conversations with people and they didn't come back, and certainly not quick enough. And I would say, well, hello, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
And it is because I expected them to know where I was going with the rest of the conversation because I knew where they were going.
Wow.
So it was, it was just
That'd
really
be frustrating.
fascinating.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, there were weird parts that obviously didn't happen to other people. Like, I always knew what I was getting for Christmas. It was awesome.
Well, that
I
sucks.
could never be surprised. Ever.
That would suck, and it would suck for any sort of person you're in a relationship with. I mean, I
would just lie. I would just be all excited and happy, and oh my God,
Right.
I never thought.
Right? You're just like playing along. Okay. Keep them happy.
Totally.
Oh my
And
God.
so then, and as I got older, I learned, after I realized what it was, then I learned to kind of turn it on and off. And especially when I started doing this professionally, I had to turn it off or I would go crazy with all of that in my head.
Right. We've talked to others that are in the same position. They say the same thing. It's like once they realized it and then they realize, we can tone this down when we don't want to have to hear it. But being a medium in any sense of the word, I mean, did you have other family members too that were similar, that shared your experiences, or were you kind of the anomaly in the family?
I was the only one.
Wow.
The only one.
That is just crazy. And then
That is
realizing
crazy.
that it's just got to be frustrating as a child. You were just like so perplexed by some people's actions sometimes or things they said. Because it's like, oh my God, why would you even, that's silly,
Well, I am certain I have an answer for that. I don't know how deep you guys care to go, but are we good? Are we good?
Yeah.
So as a child, I was severely abused. So I grew up not trusting people and trusting my own instincts and information that came through rather than trusting people. So I think that kind of turning inward and that almost isolation is why this part of me developed. I believe, I do believe obviously there's nonverbal communication, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else was developing the verbal part, and I was going, oh, no, that's just not working for me.
Right.
So I just stayed within and developed that part highly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Never thought about that as a way to build that skill, that muscle.
Right. Right.
My goodness.
Right. I think, and obviously people haven't always talked. I think it's an extremely primitive form of communication, but I also believe it is an extraordinarily advanced form of communication, because I think if the world can reach a place where we can all be honest, we can go back there.
I agree with that. And I've seen so many things that have been written about that, about just being able to use your minds to communicate or being able to take in information without verbally communicating it. And there's even been, TV shows that go there and some movies that go there. And I'm thinking there's a couple that I'm thinking, I think one was even a Star Trek episode that went there or
Oh my gosh.
or what was the other one? Some of the other sci-fi shows, they had everybody around them could communicate without speaking out loud.
Mental telepathy or
right?
whatever.
So
Yeah.
that whole thing, but also being able to feel someone else's, you feel energy in the room. And I think everybody does, but not everybody pays attention to it.
Right. Well, absolutely. And think about, what I do is, and I will just refer to it as what I do. Obviously, there are many, many, many other fabulous mediums out there. But so what I do is it's so much more complete. Think about opening your eyes and seeing a picture. Now, think of the arduous task of explaining that picture. You really can't duplicate it verbally. You can't. Our vocabulary is so insufficient. It's incredible. So it's like seeing a picture and feeling all the feelings and sometimes hearing the dialogue as well. It is so complete and multifaceted. It's incredible.
It's almost overwhelming, I would think, like too much, like information overload in certain instances.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. Depending on who my readings are with, depending on what they're about. When they're business readings, like I work with a lot of business people, helping them choose candidates or reviewing resumes or looking at how their opponents are looking at something. Because when I'm doing a reading, I can see the other people in your life. So that part is easy. But when I get readings about people who have loved ones that have passed on and are on the other side, those are difficult. When I have, even the really pretty ones, like I have a lot of clients that have loved ones on the autism spectrum. Those are extremely emotional, and you think of me as a lightning rod. So anything you or the people you're talking about in a reading are experiencing, I'm experiencing. So it is exhausting.
Did you refer to them as some pretty ones?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's an interesting way to put that. There's some pretty, meaning people that are like either very colorful, you see a lot, you get a lot of information, calling them pretty. That's a great way to put it.
Oh, I mean, absolutely breathtaking. Like my favorite all-time reading, it will last forever. I just have to make sure I say it correctly because I don't want to miss a word. They're too important. Was with someone who had a loved one that had a horrible medical problem. And we did a reading, and she wanted to know if he was going to die. He had had a surgery. Surgery went well. But from there forward, things were failing, and they didn't know why. Okay. So we did the reading. I asked him if he was going to live or die. And so sometimes I get the answer from the person you're asking about. Sometimes it's information from another source, and I honestly can't identify that source. I'm being very honest. But what he said was, and these were his words speaking to her, okay? She said, is he going to live or die? His answer was, I'm going to cry. And this was like 20 years ago. I can't tell her that. But what I will tell you is that wherever I live in the universe, I will live there from your heart. And I will be in every step you take, one breath ahead of you.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that
That's beautiful?
beautiful?
Yes.
I mean, who can even imagine something so just incredible?
Oh,
just
my gosh.
incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm sure and then you're in the position of having to translate that information and deliver it and whew.
Do you ever start off sentences like, okay, I'm not going to do this any justice, but what this dude just told me was basically this. Amazing. And because obviously it'd be really hard to put, when you're hearing it, and you're probably really good at it though, but to put it into your words exactly like the same emotion you felt
Use their words.
So sometimes they're very specific about the vocabulary. Like he was specific. I heard a voice. He sounded just like Alec Guinness. So it was just a low, very resonant. And remember, when I'm doing a reading, I'm connected with your heart, with that place in your being that is so pristine. It's where you were before there was any judgment or criticism or opinion. It's just raw, pure you at the very beginning. So to have that connection with you, you can feel the tone and the feeling in my voice. I can feel it in you. It goes two ways. It's like threading the eye of the needle. So it is so easy to capture the essence of the person you're reading.
She says.
Or the person you're reading for to read.
Yeah.
You honestly, when we first met you, that's exactly what you were doing. And your directive was a little bit different because you were dealing with a lot of people with their pets. A lot of people and animals just in general, because and I understand that I 100% believe that your animals can see your heart. I absolutely believe they know. And that's why you have dogs or cats or whatever, horses. They react to some people completely differently than they react to others. They know when they see you coming, whether or not they're going to let you in. And that was what you were doing at that time, was offering a lot of comfort with people who had lost animals, and it was, because that is like such a tragedy when that happens. And some friends just recently went through that. As a matter of fact, they just recently lost their dog unexpectedly. And he was too young, in my opinion. You're right, he was 9, but still, you think about that. It's like it really touches your heart deeply when that happens. And at that time, that was what you were called to do. That's what you were doing, and you've just taken that same ability now, and you're focusing, like you were talking, on people, but also businesses and corporations and athletes. And I mean, you've really expanded and found a way to touch a lot of people.
Well, I always did people. I started doing,
Right.
I always did. Okay. When it started professionally, it started with people. Actually, it started with a horse, went to people. It was people for many years, but I didn't know how to protect myself completely. So it actually started affecting my health. So that's why I shut off on the whole people thing, refused to do any clients at all for people, and went to pets because they're so much easier to read, so much more honest and simple. And that was great. And then as I developed my own skills to protect myself, then I was able to return to people.
So when you see that people are colorful, certain people, how colorful are certain animals? Like just bright, shiny?
Are they all just glittery?
And is there one that's glitterier than the other? I picture that cats aren't as glittery as dogs. Like I picture dogs are just like sparkly, like fabulous, and cats are like okay, but they're like grumpier.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's everybody is individual. So every animal is individual, just like people are individual. You can't say all people are fun. You certainly can't say all dogs are fun. And none of them are more sophisticated than the other.
Interesting.
Individually, yes. But as a group, no.
Interesting.
Okay.
That's neat. That's neat. So now that you've kind of shifted back into people, talk about some of the things that you do now, because I think this is really cool. And we've talked to people, well, in particular, the elite mindset, talking about high level in work, athletes, politics, business, whatever you want to talk about. We've talked to a couple people that work that from the mind side, that deal with those people, but you're dealing on a different level.
Right. So most people deal with each other from your brain to your brain, right? Or personality to personality. I go right to your heart. So I can see what I say is I always take people to the lowest common denominator. So if, let me think, okay, crazy example of, a professional athlete, wonderful character, was caught up in superstition. Okay. And superstition being, a little regime that they go through, or a little ritual before every game. And, was caught up in, is this crazy? Am I crazy? What's wrong with me? That sort of thing. Absolutely nothing. Those rituals are so important because what they do is set the intention for the game. So if you think about it, your body executes by intention. Okay. All you have to do is you don't even realize you're thinking, I want to walk across the room, and you walk across the room.
Right.
Think of how many muscles have to expand, contract. You have to visualize where you're walking so you don't fall. You have to measure. Think about sitting down in a chair. You just don't fall.
Right.
You somehow judge the distance that you're not even looking at. And you sit down. Like, how does that happen?
I mean, you don't even think about it. That's the things you used. It's like your what are those called? Like your involuntary movement. Like you don't even think about it. You would never think about that.
But you had to learn how, right? You had to learn how at some point.
It's all. I think you learn. Well, no, you didn't learn how to pick up your hand. Okay, a baby doesn't learn how to pick up their hand when they're crying. They didn't learn that. They didn't learn
they just do it,
to cry. They didn't learn to breathe. They didn't learn to see. That's so. And you guys are probably shaking your head yes or whatever. And I'm sitting here doing hand gestures like there's no tomorrow. And I'm not thinking, Denise, move your hand. And wow, it moves. So everything is based on intention. So these rituals are setting their intentions. They're not just going out there willy-nilly with their brain. They're going out there setting an intention with every single cell in their body. So now for this person, it became an anchor. rather than some silly ritual or silly superstition or absolutely not. Now it carried even more weight because they understood how it worked and they could use it even more effectively to their advantage rather than being something silly.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
That was so interesting.
Now,
yeah, a really fun thing. This is pretty cool. I had a woman that did art restoration and had an invoice, an outstanding invoice of, it was either $20,000 or $30,000. Can't remember.
Oh.
But the invoice was outstanding for months and couldn't collect. So what we did was she sent me a picture of her customer, her client, and I helped her craft a cover letter for the invoice because I could see where he found value in her work, what he was willing to pay for. So that's how we crafted the cover letter. She sent the invoice and got paid in full in 2 weeks.
That's brilliant.
That is so true, though. That is so true. You want to pay attention to what is important to the person you're addressing, not what's important
Absolutely.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I just had to look this up when you were talking about this, the rituals. I saw somebody post something yesterday, and it just kind of resonated with me. It was decide what you want before a meeting, before a phone call, before your day starts, before you do anything. Decide, so you know going in what you want to see happen. Kind of like what you're talking is visualization to a degree, but how you're going to get there, and whatever it is that you have to do to align yourself with that. That to me is just like that intention. You forget about it sometimes. It's like, oh gosh, I got to make this call. Maybe it's a sales call. Maybe it's a call to a parent. Maybe it's a call, to work or whatever. And you want to think about, I know how I want this to end. I know where I want the resolution to be. And then go into it with that mindset, but also thinking about what's important to the person on the other side. And it's not manipulation. It's just,
oh God, no,
right?
It's understanding.
There you go.
Understanding what they'll hear, how they will hear it.
And it's getting rid of, because some people I think are, I don't know if it's being stubborn or if they don't want to, they see it as weakness. Like they come in like, this is how it's going to happen. This is what we're going to do, instead of kind of putting your guard down a little bit. And like you said, reading them and playing to what is important to them, so you can still get that exact same end result without having to go through like a bulldozer, and you still get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said to me one time, and I thought this was brilliant, that a test of true intelligence is being able to communicate with anyone at their level.
Meet them where they are.
And it's true.
That's another,
right? Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you're going to speak very differently to a third grader than you would the CEO of Pepsi-Cola. I don't know, right? But your goal is for them to understand.
Interesting you say that too, because there's a teacher friend of ours that said that same thing. Because when you talk about third graders, then again, you can't talk to each one of those third graders the same way. Because some of them, right? Because some of them are a little more over here, and some of them understand these words. It's not.
And we all have our own definitions and our own colors.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And I've had many readings, and I use the words that the universe gives me. And sometimes their grammar isn't great. Sometimes the word is peculiar. And I'll have to say, but hold on, let me help you understand what it means from their perspective. So very often they will say, wow, you're really stubborn. Okay, stubborn has a negative connotation in our society. Yeah. But a lot of times when the universe says it, what it really means is dedication, tenacity, right? Power, strength, focus. It's not the way we look at it. So that's another part of it. Again, with vocabulary is so limited.
That's true. Stubborn to some people could mean closed-minded. Because you don't
right.
And it's not necessarily, they hear you perfectly fine, but they are convinced that they're right in their stance.
Yeah. Just not taking it in. Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Now, let me ask you real quick, not to change subject here, but was I supposed to send you pictures of us?
No, of course you were.
Of course I was.
So I
explain
just
that
looked
to
you guys up and said, "Oh yeah, that's their energy." And the picture just gives me a vibe of who you are now and what you feel like.
Because I was going to, because we weren't. But our plan is to have you on more regularly, and we want to make this like a monthly thing. And we want, you're right. I'm excited about this. I'm hoping that I can't wait because I think it'll be a lot of fun just because your energy is so welcome and you fill the room. And I love listening to you talk. It's also positive. And so I want to know how, as far as people, if they wanted to work with you or if they wanted to do some readings or if we wanted to incorporate that, how do you operate? What is the best way to make this happen, and what is the best way for people to reach out?
The best way for us to do it on the podcast or for people that want to reach me directly? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Let's start with the podcast because then we are absolutely going to make sure that all your information is there if people want to reach out to you for something more in depth.
Right. So let me just recap how it works, okay? And then we'll figure out the logistics. So I work from pictures. I have clients all over the world, like as far away. Probably the furthest is New Zealand, okay? Wow. So I get a vibe from a picture. I don't need to touch anything or feel anything. I just need a picture. And I will ask people to write down their questions. I prefer that they write them physically rather than, put them in a computer or type them or whatever, okay? It's better energetically to write them out. And what that does is start the process. It begins the wheels moving. It loosens your energy so that I can get in faster, right? Oh. And so yeah, because I don't want to waste your money.
Right. No.
And
I was going to say if they write out their questions to you, and then can they electronically, if you do that and then take a picture of what you wrote, and then they can text it to us and we can get it to you.
Sure, absolutely.
That's key.
They can write it out themselves, okay, and they're going to do it in order of priority. And another reason for that is, let's just say they go, oh my God, that show is coming up. What can I ask if I can get through, right? Well, they might think they want to ask, what color dress should I wear to a wedding on Saturday, okay? And as they write their list, suddenly the question becomes, am I comfortable going to that wedding on Saturday? What emotions is that going to stir up in me? What's going to happen to the way I feel? How am I going to react to people there? So that's why I ask for a list and list the priorities. So then they know what to ask on the podcast, okay? They don't have to take a picture of it. They can just, then they can just text you or email you the question. Okay. As long as I have a picture and the question, we're good to go. Now, I will also tell you, the more, and this is important, the more specific your question is, the better your answer will be. So you can, but you won't get anything. You can say to me, oh, what's the, I'm ready to retire, but I want to know my future. I'm ready for another career. What should I do? Are you kidding me? Have you ever walked into a doctor's office and said, hi, I'm here?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah. How long would it take them? How many tests and diagnostics and blah, 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 blah.
Great analogy.
You got to do your blood work, your reflexes, look at your eyes, listen to your heart.
Sure. CAT scans, x-rays, MRIs.
It's a great analogy.
It's true. It is true.
So, and the other thing I will tell the listeners is this is not for the faint of heart. This is work that takes courage, because when you ask a question, you are going to get an answer and you are going to hear the truth. So make sure you're ready for that.
Careful what you ask. Careful what you want to know. Right?
Absolutely. I had, a reading that stands out in my mind and I will never forget is a woman hired me to do a reading. She was thinking about a divorce, and she had suffered great loss in her life, like I want to say 3 or 4 loved ones in a row, okay? And this man that she loved at one time, and he promised her the sun, the moon, and the stars, and he would always be there for her. And, this was her knight in shining armor. And, her tears fell on deaf ears. It was horrible, and she felt abandoned and just hated the man, thought he was heartless. So I did the reading. She wanted to know what he thought or what he said, or I think it was like, how could you do that to me? And his answer was, from my perspective, really touching. He said, something like, of course I love her. I adore her. I want to be there for her. But when I took my vows, never in a million years did I think she could shatter like a crystal vase. And I could see it looked like diamonds, but it was crystal glass shards just fall to the floor and spread out. And he said, I don't know how to do this. And then it kind of shifted to like a puzzle. I don't know how to put her back together. I don't know how.
Wow.
And, for me, if I heard that, I would be, I guess, relieved, thrilled that he loved me so much. He wanted to do it, but couldn't do it. Instead, she was livid. She practically threw me out.
Oh, my
because
God.
what she wanted to hear was, yes, this guy is a horrible creep and get rid of him now.
Yeah.
That just proves to me you can never please women.
Oh, come on.
Even your spirit. Even your spirit. Best intentions, a woman will never be happy.
No. But you're right, though. She wanted validation for what she was feeling. And instead, you just validated that he sincerely does care. He sincerely does.
Right. And it just, I think not that she was a bad person or shallow or anything like that. I think, though, you have to look at that kind of pain like a huge wave moving in one direction, and then that splashes against the reading and is trying to reverse that direction. That is a lot of energy, a lot of force, and an awful lot to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. Well, interesting. So we'll put it out there that if you want to be a part of this and if you have questions, and I like the idea of the exercise of sitting down with pen and paper and writing out your questions, so it helps you kind of focus on what it is that you really do want. And then you can text them into us or email us or drop in our DMs or however you want to, and include a picture that you want us to
not only a picture of them
right.
and as current as possible, even a selfie that morning or whatever. And if you're going to ask something about someone else in your life, then you have to include their picture. And I rarely has the other person resisted or declined. But if that person doesn't want to speak, then I have to honor that.
Absolutely.
And if I ask and they say no, then we have to walk away. But gosh, I don't think I can even come up with the times that has happened.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Very, very rare.
So that's, and everything completely confidential. Trust us. We aren't posting any of this stuff. This is stuff that we're just going to be the conduit so we can get information to you. And we'll do this again in a month and we'll include some people on this.
It's going to be fun.
I think it will. I think it's going to be, it's just something, it's just such a, I enjoy having you on. Like we had said before, you fill the room and you're just such a positive energy.
Make us think of things differently and look at things a lot differently.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we appreciate that. Thank you.
Now let's talk about if somebody wants to dig a little deeper and how they get in touch with you and how they can become one of your clients, how they can work with you.
Oh, super easy. Just go to Denise Zak, Z like in zebra, AK.com.
Super simple.
That will tell you everything about me. That will walk you through the process, give you the contact information, how it works. And my assistant will get right back to you.
I can vouch for that, as a matter of fact, because that's how I reached out to you. Was via your website.
Did Courtney get Courtney?
Yeah,
amazing.
It was via your website, and it was like, and she forwarded it through. I mean, it was like that's all it took. So it was fantastic. Yeah. So yes, I can vouch for it. That's the best way to. I had no other way to reach out to you.
Yeah, how else are you going to do it?
I was like, what am I going to do? It says contact. Okay, Denise, here I come.
Yeah.
So
I just have to say, to your audience, how many times have you found yourself in a position where you thought, if I only knew what they were thinking?
Oh my God.
Hello?
Yeah.
That's my job, I can tell you.
It's her job, yo.
And everything, and Pat, you said, how do you do that? You're using your words. Absolutely. You are getting some of my personality through the reading. I try desperately to convey exactly what I'm getting, but sometimes when it's a feeling, I have to use my words, and no matter what, you are getting my energy. Can't help that. But the good part about that is I am almost always positive. I do see the pretty side of things. I see the serious side, but it is also, the message is also, it is my intention to deliver it with grace, respect, and safety.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Denise, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you.
I'm going to get us set up, and we'll get you on get things on the calendar so people know when to expect to hear you
start counting
again.
on it.
Yeah,
that'd be
exactly.
awesome.
And we'll get things rolling.
Perfect.
All right, hon.
Thanks, Denise.
All right, thank you.
Have an awesome day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, and you can also go down into the show notes and click that if you didn't have a pen and write down our website. Just click there. The link is there. Thanks for listening to our podcast.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Hurrdat Media Production.